The gleaming Galactic Council chamber on Nexus Prime sparkled with the calculated grandeur of a civilization that had existed for millennia. Crystalline pillars rose from marble floors, supporting a dome that simulated the cosmos itself, a reminder to all present that they were but stewards of something greater. It was the mid-34th century, and humanity had only recently joined this august assembly. Ambassador Imani Reyes straightened her formal attire, a blend of traditional earth silks and subtle Nexian metallic threading, a deliberate choice to symbolize humanity's willingness to adapt while maintaining its identity. Her dark eyes scanned the enormous chamber where representatives of 200 different species sat arranged in concentric rings. 3 years since first contact, and humanity still occupied the outermost circle. Newcomers, provisional members, watched with a mixture of curiosity, disdain, and in some corners, genuine admiration. Imani felt the weight of her position acutely. At just 38, she was young for an ambassador, chosen not only for her diplomatic acumen, but for her unwavering optimism and belief in humanity's potential contribution to the galactic community. Today, that optimism would be tested. The Council will now hear the final vote regarding Resolution 7293B, concerning the status of species designation human within the Galactic Alliance, announced Speaker Varash, his voice carrying effortlessly through the chamber. The Valteri diplomat's skin shimmered with the bioluminescent patterns of his people, currently displaying formality with rigid geometric shapes. Vorash continued, his multifaceted eyes sweeping across the chamber. The motion before us states, due to repeated violations of Alliance protocols regarding unauthorized terraforming methods and concerns of technological contagion, human presence within Alliance space shall be suspended for a period not less than 100 standard cycles. Imani's heart raced. This was worse than she'd anticipated. The diplomatic language was clear enough. Humanity wasn't just being sanctioned, they were being expelled. She had expected negotiations, perhaps restrictions on human expansion, but not this. Her fingers instinctively moved to her comm brace, feeling its cool metal against her wrist. The final tally stands at 902 votes in favor, 18 opposed, Varash announced, his bioluminescence flaring slightly, the Valteri equivalent of satisfaction. The resolution passes. Ambassador Reyes, you are granted the customary response period. Imani stood, her movements deliberately measured, despite the turmoil within. The chamber fell silent as she approached the central podium, a circular platform suspended over a pool of liquid memory metal that reflected her image in rippling distortions. Honored Speaker, esteemed counselors, she began, her voice steady. Humanity acknowledges the Council's decision. While we disagree with both the premises and the conclusion, we respect the processes of this assembly. She paused, sweeping her gaze across the chamber, making eye contact with as many delegates as possible. We will comply with the evacuation order within the designated time frame. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Many had expected protests, appeals, perhaps even threats. The human acceptance seemed too easy, too quick. As Imani bowed in the formal manner, she discreetly pressed a sequence on her comm brace, activating Protocol Exodus. The signal would now be racing across subspace channels to every human settlement in Alliance territory. The countdown had begun. From her vantage point near the back of the chamber, Consul Nara Tel shifted uncomfortably in her seat. As representative of the Felrian system, a collection of smaller worlds with limited political influence, she had reluctantly voted in favor of the resolution. The evidence presented had seemed damning. Unauthorized modifications to atmosphere processors on frontier worlds, integration of human technology with sensitive Alliance infrastructure, and unregistered AI development. Yet, watching Ambassador Reyes's dignified response, Nara felt a crawling sense of unease. The humans had not defended themselves vigorously during the proceedings, almost as if they had anticipated this outcome, or worse, welcomed it. Aboard the UES Vanguard, Admiral Helena Cross received the Exodus signal while reviewing defense simulations in her command center. The veteran officer's weathered face hardened as she dismissed her tactical staff with a curt nod. "Computer, initiate Exodus protocol. Authorization Cross Alpha 79. "Protocol Exodus confirmed," responded the ship's AI. "Evacuation fleet standing by. Priority designations awaiting confirmation." Cross strode to the view screen that dominated the bridge, staring out at the glittering expanse of stars. 57 human colonies spread across Alliance space. Nearly 3 billion souls to evacuate in under 30 days. It would be the largest human migration since the Mars Exodus of 2189. Priority 1, civilian population centers. Priority 2, agricultural reserves. Priority 3, technological infrastructure. She paused. And Priority 4, cultural archives. The Admiral's mind raced through calculations, ship capacities, fuel requirements, hyperspace vectors. They had planned for this contingency, but theory and practice were different beasts. Her fingers drummed against the console as she composed a message to her counterparts across human space. "This is not a retreat," she dictated. "This is a redeployment." In his laboratory on Kepler 9, Dr. Sumak Patel stared at his communication screen in disbelief. The xenobiologist had dedicated the past 2 years to studying the endangered Drex species, a sentient, fungal collective that had been reduced to a single colony after their homeworld suffered a catastrophic climate shift. His research had been making breakthrough progress on Drex communication methods. "They can't be serious," he muttered to his research partner, Dr. Eliza Wong. "The Drex will die without our environmental stabilizers." Dr. Wong shook her head grimly as she began the process of downloading their research data. "The Council doesn't care about the Drex. They're not a voting member. We have 29 days to evacuate." "But we can't take them with us," Dr. Patel protested. "The mycelial network covers 17 square kilometers. It would take years to safely relocate." "Then we have decisions to make," Dr. Wong replied softly, placing a hand on her colleague's shoulder. Dr. Patel gazed at the sprawling bioluminescent network visible through the laboratory's transparent floor, thousands of delicate filaments pulsing with consciousness. How could he abandon them? Yet, how could he stay? Across human space, similar scenes unfolded as the Exodus protocol activated emergency procedures on every colony, outpost, and research station. On New Montana, agricultural specialists reversed the programming on massive cargo lifters, adapting them to transport not just the harvest, but the specialized soil and seed stock developed for the planet's unique conditions. On Marchus Outpost, engineers dismantled crucial atmospheric processors that had been quietly maintaining oxygen levels, not just for the human settlement, but for 3 neighboring non-human colonies. Ambassador Reyes returned to her diplomatic quarters on Nexus Prime, deliberately maintaining her usual schedule, despite the chaos she knew was unfolding across human space. Appearances mattered now more than ever. Her aide, Julian Mbeki, waited with a secure quantum terminal already activated. "Status report," she requested, shedding the formal diplomatic facade as the door sealed behind her. "Exodus protocol initiated across all settlements," Julian confirmed. "Admiral Cross has deployed the evacuation fleet. First waves departing from outlying colonies already. Research stations report 82% compliance, though we have several." He hesitated. "Several refusing evacuation orders." Amani closed her eyes briefly. "That was expected. No forced evacuations. Julian, make that clear to Admiral Cross. We are not the Council. We don't dictate choices." "Yes, Ambassador." Julian hesitated. "There's something else. Several non-human worlds have sent unofficial communications. They're concerned about the departure of human technical advisors. A sad smile crossed Imani's face. Of course they are. They're just beginning to realize what the Council has done. She moved to the window, gazing out at the spectacular cityscape of Nexus Prime, the administrative heart of the Galactic Alliance. Did we do the right thing, Julian? All these years, all the silent assistance, never taking credit. We helped where we could, Julian replied. That was the directive from the beginning. Integrate, assist, but never flaunt. Perhaps if we had been more open about our contributions— No, Imani interrupted. That would have only accelerated this moment. The Council fears what it doesn't control. Our mistake was believing they would eventually see us as partners, rather than threats. She turned back to the quantum terminal, her resolve hardening. Activate the documentation protocol. I want every instance of human assistance, every upgrade, every crisis averted, compiled and ready. They might expel us, but they will know exactly what they're losing. As the official evacuation began, Council chambers across Alliance space buzzed with self-congratulatory rhetoric. Speaker Varash presided over a special session of the Security Council, where delegates from the most powerful Alliance species gathered to discuss the human transition. The expulsion vote demonstrates our commitment to Alliance principles, Varash declared, his bioluminescence displaying complex patterns of authority and satisfaction. While humans have shown potential, their disregard for established protocols poses unacceptable risks to our unified civilization. Zahrax, the insectoid representative of the Vesperian Collective, chittered agreement. Their technological integration methods show concerning patterns. Analysis suggests probable contamination of our systems with unauthorized modifications. Only Male Tor of the Aquarian Depths raised cautionary concerns. Have we fully assessed the implications of their removal from frontier territories? Several ecological projects rely on human management systems. Transition teams have been appointed, Varash dismissed. Any temporary disruptions will be managed. The Alliance functioned for millennia before humans arrived. We will hardly collapse without them. Little did they know that across Alliance space, the first failures were already beginning. On Zarian, an automated nexus managing interstellar communication channels suddenly degraded from optimal to minimal functionality. The Zarian engineers were baffled. The system had been running flawlessly for the past 2 years, ever since a routine upgrade performed jointly with human consultants. The quantum entanglement matrix is desyncing, reported Chief Engineer Ziv. Efficiency dropping below 70% and continuing to decline. Run a diagnostic, ordered Supervisor Krell. This is unacceptable. Diagnostics show no malfunctions, Ziv replied, frustration evident. The system is functioning exactly to Alliance specifications. Then why is performance degrading? Ziv hesitated. Because Alliance specifications are inadequate for current network demands. On Altera, the situation proved even more dire. The planet's massive agricultural harvesting systems, responsible for feeding 17 Alliance worlds, ground to a halt as automated controllers failed to adapt to a sudden atmospheric pressure change caused by seasonal factors. Where are the human technicians? Demanded Governor Pax, as crop withering estimates climbed hourly. They always handled these seasonal adjustments. Departed yesterday. Governor, replied his aide nervously. Alliance directive. The replacement team from Central Engineering arrived this morning, but say they're unfamiliar with the modifications the humans made to the systems. What modifications? These are Alliance standard harvesters. Apparently not, sir. The humans had implemented numerous customizations to accommodate Altera's unique weather patterns. The systems appear to be reverting to standard functionality. Governor Pax stared at the massive fields of grain, already beginning to yellow under the intensifying sun. Standard functionality isn't good enough on Altera. Get those humans back. They're already gone, sir. Their ships jumped to hyperspace hours ago. In her chambers on Nexus Prime, Consul Naratel could not shake her growing unease. The celebratory mood among her colleagues felt increasingly hollow as reports trickled in of technical adjustments needed across Alliance systems. Against protocol, she summoned her aide, Vreen, for a private discussion. "Something isn't right," she confided. "These systems failures, they're too coincidental." Vreen, younger and less bound by traditional council thinking, nodded. "I've been compiling reports. 27 critical systems showing performance degradation within 48 hours of human departure. And those are just the ones being reported. We need to investigate. Discreetly." Nara's four-fingered hand tapped her desk nervously. "The maintenance logs for the central atmospheric control systems here on Nexus Prime. Can you access them?" "That would be a violation of security protocols," Vreen noted, then smiled slightly. "I'll have them within the hour." When Vreen returned, his usually blue complexion had paled considerably. "Consul, you need to see this." The logs revealed a pattern that chilled Nara to her core. For 3 years, human technical advisors had been implementing routine upgrades to virtually every critical system on Nexus Prime. Power distribution, atmospheric composition, waste reclamation, even the gravity stabilizers, all had been quietly optimized beyond Alliance standards. And now, without human maintenance, these systems were gradually reverting to their original, less efficient states. "They've been keeping us running," Nara whispered. "All this time, while we debated their worthiness, they were silently improving everything around us." "Not just Nexus Prime," Vreen added. "I cross-referenced with data from other Council worlds. The pattern is consistent across Alliance space. Human technical advisors have been enhancing infrastructure everywhere they went. And now we've expelled them." Nara's voice was hollow with realization. "We need to inform Speaker Varash immediately." "Will he listen?" The expulsion was his initiative. Nara straightened, her resolve hardening. "He has no choice. This isn't about politics anymore. This is about survival." Meanwhile, aboard the research vessel Horizon, Dr. Sumak Patel faced his own crisis of conscience. The evacuation of Kepler-9 was nearly complete, with his research team and equipment already transferred to the waiting transport. Only he remained, standing vigil in the now empty laboratory above the Drex colony. His communication terminal chimed with an incoming message. Admiral Cross herself, her expression stern through the quantum link. "Dr. Patel, your transport departs in 30 minutes. Why are you not aboard?" He gestured to the bioluminescent network below. "I can't leave them, Admiral. Without the environmental stabilizers, the Drex won't survive the seasonal temperature flux. They're the last of their kind." Cross's expression softened marginally. "I understand your concern, Doctor, but the Council's order is clear. All humans must evacuate Alliance space." "Then I resign my commission," he replied firmly. "I'll stay as an independent researcher. The Council can hardly object to one human remaining." "They can and they will," Cross countered. "But that's not the point. We need your expertise for what comes next." Dr. Patel shook his head. "What comes next for the Drex is extinction if I leave. I've dedicated my life to preserving endangered species. Admiral, I cannot abandon my principles now." Just then, his terminal registered another signal, faint but unmistakable. The Drex were communicating directly with his systems, something they had never done before. "Admiral," he said, his voice tight with emotion, "I need to go. There's something happening with the Drex." He ended the transmission before she could respond, and hurried to the interpretation console. The fungal network was generating patterns he'd never seen before. Complex, mathematical, purposeful. "They know," he whispered in amazement. "They understand what's happening." The pattern shifted, forming recognizable symbols, a crude approximation of human language. A message, repeated over and over. Go, remember, return. The events on Kepler 9 were mirrored across human space as the exodus accelerated. Some chose to stay behind, scientists unwilling to abandon research, engineers committed to maintaining critical systems, even ordinary colonists who had formed deep bonds with their adopted worlds or non-human neighbors. But these were exceptions. The vast majority of humanity flowed toward the extraction points where Admiral Cross's evacuation fleet waited. The scale of the operation was staggering. Massive colony ships, many hastily retrofitted from cargo vessels, filled with families carrying whatever possessions they could bring. Agricultural arks transported carefully preserved seeds, embryos, and genetic samples of Earth-originated species. Data vessels contained the accumulated knowledge of human settlements, scientific discoveries, cultural works, historical records. And quietly, moving in the shadows of this enormous migration, were ships of another kind, sleek, advanced vessels, carrying the technological marvels humanity had developed but never shared with the Alliance. Quantum computation systems beyond anything the Council races possessed. Experimental drive technology that could potentially open regions of space previously thought unreachable. Medical advances that had been deemed too disruptive to introduce to Alliance worlds. 6 days after the Exodus began, the first serious crisis struck Nexus Prime itself. The atmospheric processing system that maintained the delicate balance of gases required by the diverse species inhabiting the Alliance capital began to fluctuate. Oxygen levels dropped in some sectors, rose dangerously in others. Temperature controls faltered. Speaker Vorash convened an emergency session of the Council, his bioluminescence patterns showing stress and confusion. "How is this possible?" he demanded of the Chief Systems Administrator. "These processors have functioned flawlessly for decades." "Not exactly, Speaker," the Administrator admitted reluctantly. 3 years ago, when human technical advisors first arrived, they identified critical wear patterns in the molecular filters. They implemented what they called adaptive cycling to compensate. We approved the modifications as a temporary measure until replacement parts could be manufactured. "And," Vorash prompted, "the replacements were scheduled for next cycle. In the meantime, the human maintenance protocols kept the system functioning above normal capacity. Without those protocols—" "Fix it," Vorash commanded. "Return the system to its original state." "We're trying, Speaker, but the human modifications were elegant, integrated throughout the system architecture. Removing them without understanding them fully could cause a complete shutdown." Vorash's bioluminescence flared with anger. "Are you telling me we cannot maintain our own atmospheric systems without human assistance?" The Administrator bowed apologetically. "I'm telling you that for 3 years. We haven't been—" As the crisis on Nexus Prime escalated, similar situations unfolded across Alliance space. Power generation facilities on Veltar Prime operated at reduced capacity, leading to rationing and civil unrest. The automated defense grid protecting the Kepler cluster began suffering mysterious gaps in coverage. Transportation networks experienced increasing delays as traffic management systems lost efficiency. Consul Naratel found herself unexpectedly at the center of the growing controversy. Her investigation into human technical contributions had expanded, revealing a pattern that could no longer be ignored. Against explicit orders from Speaker Vorash, she compiled her findings and presented them to a special committee of mid-tier council representatives, those with enough influence to be heard, but not so much that they were blindly committed to the expulsion policy. "The data is irrefutable," she explained, displaying holographic charts showing system performance metrics across dozens of worlds. In every instance where humans provided technical assistance, performance improved by an average of 37%. Now that they've departed, we're seeing universal degradation. "Why didn't we know about these improvements?" asked a Centaurian delegate. "Because the humans never documented them officially," Nara replied. They submitted standard maintenance reports, not enhancement notifications, and we never questioned why systems were performing above specifications. This suggests deliberate deception, noted a Proximan representative. Nara shook her head. Or a different approach to service. The humans fixed problems we didn't know we had, improved systems we thought were functioning optimally. They didn't seek recognition or compensation. Which raises the question, interjected Vreen. Who had become Nara's partner in the investigation? What was their motivation? If not for political advantage or economic gain, why help us at all? The question hung in the air, unanswered. But in her heart, Nara was beginning to understand. The humans had helped because that was what they did. It was as natural to them as breathing. Meanwhile, Admiral Cross's evacuation fleet had assembled at the designated rendezvous point at the edge of Alliance space. Nearly 3,000 vessels of various sizes, carrying the hopes and future of humanity. Cross stood on the bridge of the Vanguard, reviewing the final tallies. 96% evacuation rate, reported her executive officer. Better than projections. Cross nodded, her expression grim. And the 4% who remained? Mostly research personnel and technical specialists who chose to stay, some with families who've integrated with local populations. They made their choice, Cross said, though the words tasted bitter. What about Ambassador Reyes? Still on Nexus Prime. Admiral. She insists on remaining until the last possible moment. Cross allowed herself a small smile. Stubborn to the end. Very well. Prepare the fleet for the jump to the Dark Zone coordinates. The Dark Zone was what human explorers called the vast, unmapped region beyond the boundaries of Alliance-charted space. For years, quiet expeditions had been probing this territory, establishing rudimentary navigation beacons and conducting preliminary surveys. Now it would become humanity's new home, at least temporarily. On Nexus Prime, the situation continued to deteriorate. 17 days after the exodus began, the first food shortages appeared as automated distribution systems faltered. The magnificent boulevards of the capital grew quieter as residents increasingly remained in their dwellings, conserving energy and resources. Speaker Varash, once so confident in the Alliance's self-sufficiency, now spent his days in crisis meetings with technical specialists, trying to understand the extent of the system's failures plaguing not just Nexus Prime, but hundreds of Alliance worlds. This cannot continue, he declared to his inner circle of advisors. We must take decisive action. What do you propose, Speaker? Asked High Counselor Ziv of the Zarian Confederacy. We must recover the human technical knowledge, Vorash stated. Immediately. The humans took their databases with them, noted another advisor, and most of their specialists are gone. Not all, Vorash countered. Ambassador Reyes remains, and there are others who chose to stay. We will compel them to assist us. Compel? Speaker? Naratel had entered the chamber silently. Her status as a minor consul, usually insufficient to grant her access to such high-level meetings. But the crisis had disrupted normal protocols. This is not your concern, Consul Tel, Vorash said dismissively. With respect, Speaker, it is the concern of every Alliance citizen currently suffering from systems failures. Nara stepped forward, her slender form tense with urgency. But compelling the remaining humans will not solve our problem. Explain, demanded Ziv. I've been investigating the situation extensively, Nara replied. The human technical specialists who remain behind are already working at maximum capacity, trying to maintain critical systems on their respective worlds. But they're individuals. The knowledge we need, the comprehensive understanding of the improvements made to our infrastructure, that left with the main evacuation. Then we must recall them, Vorash declared. The Council will amend the expulsion order. It's too late, Nara said softly. The evacuation fleet has already jumped to hyperspace. They're beyond our reach. A heavy silence fell over the chamber as the implications sank in. The mighty Galactic Alliance, which had existed for millennia before encountering humans, now faced an unprecedented crisis barely 3 weeks after their departure. In her diplomatic quarters, Ambassador Imani Reyes received the official summons to appear before the full council. She had been expecting it. The timing was perfect, exactly as her analyst had predicted. The Alliance was resilient enough to maintain functionality for approximately 20 days without human technical support before critical systems would begin to fail beyond local capacity to repair. Julian entered her chamber, his expression troubled. "They're becoming desperate. Ambassador, there are rumors of detention orders for remaining human specialists." "Predictable," Imani replied calmly. "Fear leads to control. Control leads to force." "We should evacuate now," Julian urged. "Admiral Cross has left a stealth vessel in the outer system for us." Imani shook her head. "Not yet. The documentation protocol is complete, but I need to deliver it personally." She gestured to the quantum terminal, where a comprehensive record of human contributions to Alliance infrastructure glowed with dense information. "They need to understand what they've lost." "And if they detain you?" A small smile touched Imani's lips. "Then I join the other humans who chose to remain, but they won't. Vorash is arrogant, not stupid. He knows he needs cooperation, not prisoners." As predicted, the council chamber was packed when Imani arrived. Representatives from all 200-member species crowded the tiered seating, an unprecedented attendance. The mood was tense, the usual diplomatic courtesies strained. Speaker Vorash acknowledged her with minimal formality. "Ambassador Reyes, the Council has reconvened to discuss the current technical difficulties affecting Alliance infrastructure. I believe systemic collapse would be more accurate." "Speaker," Imani replied calmly, taking her position at the central podium. Murmurs rippled through the assembly at her directness. Vorash's bioluminescence flickered with irritation. "The Council has voted to temporarily suspend Resolution 7293B, he announced. "Humans may return to Alliance space to assist with infrastructure repairs." Imani smiled sadly. "That is generous, Speaker. However, I must inform you that the human evacuation fleet has already departed for the dark zone beyond Alliance space. They are beyond communication range." "Impossible," declared Zarax of the Vesperian Collective. "No vessels can traverse the dark zone. It is unmapped and unnavigable." "For the Alliance, perhaps," Imani acknowledged. "Humanity has been exploring those regions for some time." Fresh murmurs, louder now, filled the chamber. Vorash raised his appendages for silence. "Ambassador Reyes, the situation is untenable. Critical systems across hundreds of worlds are failing. Millions of Alliance citizens face hardship. If your people have the knowledge to prevent this suffering, surely you must provide it." Imani's expression remained composed, but her voice took on a new intensity. "For 3 years, Speaker, humanity provided exactly that knowledge. We improved your systems, enhanced your infrastructure, solved problems you didn't know existed. We did so quietly, without recognition or reward." She touched her comm brace, and the central holographic display flared to life, showing thousands of technical schematics, maintenance logs, and enhancement records. The complete documentation protocol. "This is what humans contributed to the Alliance," she continued. "Every improvement, every innovation, every crisis averted. We didn't announce these contributions because we believed in service without a claim. We thought, perhaps naively, that the results would speak for themselves." The chamber had gone completely silent as representatives scrolled through the data relevant to their worlds. The scale of human technical assistance was staggering, far beyond anything the Council had imagined. "You manipulated us," Vorash accused, his bioluminescence pulsing with agitation. You made us dependent on your technologies without our knowledge. We helped, Imani corrected firmly. There is a difference. We saw systems that could work better and improved them. We identified vulnerabilities and strengthened them. We never created dependencies. We enhanced capabilities. And now you withdraw that assistance, countered Ziv, leaving us to suffer. No, Imani's voice hardened. You expelled us. There is a difference there as well. At that moment, the lights in the council chamber flickered, then dimmed. The environmental systems audibly faltered, the carefully maintained atmosphere growing noticeably stale. Even the gravity seemed to waver momentarily. What's happening? Demanded Vorash. Nexus Prime's central power distribution network is failing, Imani explained calmly. The cascading system degradation has reached a critical threshold. This is just the beginning. As if to emphasize her point, the massive doors to the chamber sealed automatically, an emergency protocol activating as critical systems detected the environmental fluctuations. You planned this, accused Zarax, mandibles clicking furiously. No, Imani replied. We predicted it. There's a difference. The main view screen in the chamber suddenly activated, showing a real-time image of space near the edge of Alliance territory. The human evacuation fleet was visible, thousands of ships of various sizes and configurations, arranged in a complex three-dimensional pattern. This is a live feed from our departing fleet, Imani explained. Admiral Cross wished the Council to witness humanity's exit from Alliance space. As they watched, the fleet began to move in perfect coordination, accelerating toward the unmapped void beyond Alliance charts. Then, in a synchronized maneuver that should have been impossible for vessels of such different classes, they vanished, not into conventional hyperspace, but into something else. A ripple of energy, unlike anything Alliance scientists had ever recorded, marked their passage. What was that? Whispered Naratel, her scientific curiosity overcoming protocol. That wasn't standard hyperspace technology. No, agreed Imani. It wasn't. That's another thing we never shared with the Alliance. Our true level of propulsion technology. The implications stunned the assembled representatives. Humans had possessed transportation capabilities beyond Alliance understanding, and had kept them secret. What else had they concealed? Ambassador Reyes, Varash said, his voice now stripped of its usual authority. The Council requests, no. The Council implores you to contact your fleet. The Alliance needs human assistance. Imani's expression softened slightly. I understand, Speaker, but the decision is no longer mine to make. The fleet has entered what we call deep space transit. They won't emerge for at least 5 years. 5 years? The despair in Varash's voice was palpable. Our systems won't last 5 weeks at the current rate of degradation. Then you have choices to make, Imani replied. The documentation I've provided contains all the technical knowledge you need to maintain the systems we improved. It will require study, adaptation, and cooperation among your brightest minds. But it is possible. And what about you, Ambassador? Asked Naratel. Will you stay to help us? The question hung in the air as the chamber's environmental systems sputtered again, the temperature dropping noticeably. I will remain until my official duties are complete, Imani answered carefully. As will those humans who chose to stay. But understand this, we are no longer your subordinates. We are no longer seeking your approval or admission to your alliance. Those who remain do so by choice, not obligation. She turned to face Varash directly. The Council made its decision. Speaker, order without growth is decay. You chose order. Now you live with the consequences. In the days that followed, the situation across Alliance space continued to deteriorate. On Nexus Prime, the once bustling streets grew increasingly empty as citizens remained in their dwellings, conserving energy and resources. The magnificent architectural lighting that had made the capital gleam like a jewel in space was extinguished to save power. Ambassador Reyes maintained her official presence, attending emergency meetings and providing what guidance she could. But true to her word, she did not attempt to solve the Alliance's problems for them. Instead, she connected Council technical teams with the human specialists who had chosen to remain, creating collaborative groups focused on the most critical systems. On Kepler 9, Dr. Sumak Patel continued his work with the Drex, now with unexpected support from Alliance scientists who suddenly recognized the value of his research. The fungal network had begun to demonstrate remarkable adaptive capabilities, suggesting potential solutions to some of the ecological systems, failures plaguing nearby worlds. Admiral Cross's fleet, meanwhile, traveled through realms of space unknown to the Alliance. Using propulsion technology, developed in secret, they moved toward a rendezvous point established years earlier by human exploratory missions. There, in the darkness beyond charted space, they would begin again, not as supplicants seeking admission to an existing order, but as architects of something new. 30 days after the Exodus began, Imani Reyes officially concluded her duties as Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Alliance. In a simple ceremony attended by those council representatives who had come to respect her, she surrendered her diplomatic credentials and prepared to depart on the stealth vessel Julian had arranged. Consul Naratel was among those who came to bid her farewell. "Is there truly no way to recall your fleet?" she asked, her voice tinged with desperation. "The situation grows worse daily. The Felian systems, my homeworlds, are facing severe agricultural failures." Imani regarded the consul with genuine compassion. "The fleet follows a predetermined course, Nara. But that doesn't mean humanity has abandoned this galaxy. Those who remained will help where they can. And perhaps, in time, there will be reconnection." "In 5 years?" Nara pressed. "You said the fleet wouldn't emerge for 5 years." A small, enigmatic smile touched Imani's lips. "I said they wouldn't emerge for at least 5 years. The true time frame depends on what they find." "What they find? What does that mean?" But Imani merely clasped Nara's hands in a human gesture of farewell. "Look to the stars, Consul, and remember that the universe is larger than the Alliance imagined." With those cryptic words, she departed, leaving the Alliance to face its uncertain future. 5 years passed. Across Alliance space, a new equilibrium gradually emerged. The comprehensive technical documentation Imani had provided proved invaluable, though implementing its lessons required cooperation on an unprecedented scale. Traditional rivalries and hierarchies within the Council were set aside out of necessity as species worked together to maintain the infrastructure humans had enhanced. The human specialists who had chosen to remain became respected advisors, no longer treated as provisional allies, but as essential partners. Dr. Sumak Patel's work with the Drex led to breakthroughs in biological computing that helped replace some of the most sophisticated human technical contributions. Other humans formed deep bonds with Alliance species, creating hybrid communities that began to develop unique cultures and perspectives. On Nexus Prime, the Council itself underwent transformation. The crisis forced a re-evaluation of the rigid bureaucracy that had dominated Alliance governance for millennia. Younger representatives like Naratel gained influence, advocating for more adaptive, less hierarchical approaches to interstellar cooperation. Speaker Vorash, his reputation damaged by the expulsion decision and its aftermath, eventually stepped down. In his final address to the Council, he acknowledged what few had been willing to admit. "We feared change more than stagnation. We valued control above progress. In expelling humanity, we revealed not their weakness, but our own." Then, 6 years and 73 days after the human exodus, the sensors on the farthest Alliance outposts detected something extraordinary. Massive energy signatures, unlike anything in Alliance records, appeared at the edge of charted space. Preliminary analysis suggested structures of impossible scale, artificial constructions larger than most planetary systems. The Council dispatched scientific vessels to investigate, but as they approached the region, communication became difficult. Space itself seemed different there, as if the fundamental constants of physics had been locally modified. When the expedition finally managed to transmit images back to Nexus Prime, the Council chamber fell into shocked silence. The structures were beyond comprehension, vast lattices of material that didn't register on standard scanners, surrounding stars completely, harnessing their entire energy output. Among these megastructures moved ships of human design, but evolved, advanced beyond recognition. And there were other vessels too, alien configurations unlike anything in Alliance records. "They found someone out there," whispered Naratel, now a senior consul, as she studied the images. "The humans found another civilization in the Dark Zone." "Not just found," corrected her aide, the ever-faithful Vreen. "Look at the integration patterns. They're working together, building together." Further analysis confirmed this assessment. Humanity had encountered another spacefaring species in the unmapped regions beyond Alliance space, a civilization that called itself the Architects. Unlike the Alliance, which had prioritized stability and control, the Architects pursued creation and transformation on cosmic scales. In humanity, they had found kindred spirits. Together, they were reshaping reality itself. When the Alliance expedition attempted to establish contact, they received a surprising response. A familiar face appeared on their communication screens, Imani Reyes, though somehow changed. Her eyes held depths that hadn't been there before, and an aura of calm purpose surrounded her. "Greetings, Alliance vessels," she said warmly. "You've come a long way." "Ambassador Reyes," responded the expedition commander in shock. "You're alive. You're with them." She smiled. "I am an observer now, among the Architects and humanity. We've been watching your progress with interest." "The Council requests dialogue," the commander stated formally. "The Alliance wishes to establish diplomatic relations with your new civilization." Imani's expression grew thoughtful. "That is a complex request. What exists here is not merely a new civilization, but a new approach to existence itself. The Architects have taught us to see beyond the limitations of traditional physicality." "I don't understand," admitted the commander. "You will, in time," Imani assured him. "For now, know that we bear the Alliance no ill will. The separation was necessary for both our developments. Will you return?" The question carried the weight of all the struggles the Alliance had endured in humanity's absence. Imani's gaze seemed to look beyond the commander, perhaps into possible futures only she could perceive. "Not as we were," she said finally, "but connection remains possible, for those ready to embrace new possibilities." The transmissions from the expedition became the most studied documents in Alliance history. Debates raged about their meaning and implications. Some feared the power humanity and their new allies wielded. Others saw opportunity in renewed contact. Through it all, Naratel found herself returning to Imani's final words before leaving Nexus Prime years earlier. "Look to the stars, and remember that the universe is larger than the Alliance imagined." Now, gazing at the holographic feeds showing the incomprehensible megastructures where humanity had found a new purpose, she finally understood. The Alliance had been so focused on maintaining the existing order that they had failed to imagine new possibilities. They had expelled progress out of fear of change, and in doing so, had nearly doomed themselves to stagnation. The humans had left, and it was truly too late to fix the mistake the Council had made. But perhaps, Nara reflected, it wasn't too late to learn from it. Perhaps, in time, the gap between what was and what could be might yet be bridged. In her chamber on Nexus Prime, She composed a message to be transmitted toward the vast structures at the edge of known space. We are ready to listen. Teach us what you have learned. Whether Imani or the evolved humanity would respond remained to be seen. But for the first time in millennia, the Alliance looked to the future not with fear of the unknown, but with hope for what might be discovered. The students had become teachers. The observers had become the observed. And the universe, infinitely larger than anyone had imagined, continued its eternal expansion into possibility.